Greetings, brethren, Donkey here, and this is my second attempt at this video. I actually recorded this, I think, 2 weeks ago, and that one is kind of out of date now because I did a dum-dum. I thought that, for some reason, I still had a whole week. And I don't, because it's February, and that only has 28 days, so yeah, that's a boo-boo I made, and so I don't have time to finish my first set of figures in February, because February is over now. So I'll have to start this whole thing in March, just push it back one month basically, which is a bit annoying, but we'll get to that. So anyway, I just wanted to show you where we are at the moment with this particular project. As you can see here, this is my first set of figures. We have the 5 Black Knights. They're still a bit weirdly spaced out because this is how I had it next to the airbrush. We have the 20 zombies, all of the base, the unit fillers, which I have decided will probably mostly go in the zombie unit, because I would actually like the zombie unit eventually to have 30 models. Ideally 35, but I'm not sure I can push it that far with just base fillers. That feels really cheap to have only 20 figures in a 35-man unit. So we'll see. I kind of don't want to buy another box of these zombies because of, you know, the whole thing. With the actually, that's something that I should probably address as well before I go any further. So yeah, there were a bunch of comments about like how this whole thing is, 1, not Oldhammer, and 2, kind of hypocritical of me to you know, be using all this contemporary Games Workshop stuff when I said I wouldn't do that anymore. And on the latter part, if that's the case, then I have been breaking my conviction, I guess, since the day I made that video a while back where I said I wasn't going to deal with Games Workshop anymore, because I've still been buying Games Workshop miniatures. Oldhammer miniatures, you know, like 80s and 90s figures, and I've been buying them from third parties, and that was really all I was trying to say. I'm not buying anything new in box anymore. I don't really have a problem buying eBay rescues and stuff that, you know, third-party people are selling. I mean, they've already bought it. You know, to me, that's the same kind of argument that why I wouldn't ever be a vegan, you know, because I think if you're already, or why I wouldn't, like, say that you shouldn't wear pelts, because if you're already killing the animals to eat them, you might as well make use of the whole thing, right? So, totally weird tangent argument, but that's just kind of my logic behind it. So I don't see this as hypocritical, but if you do, then okay, fair enough. But that's just how it's going to be, because I didn't buy any of this in the store. I bought all of this from locals, actually, and I'll get to that in a second. But what I did also want to talk about is this guy. I made him as a unit filler. He was from one of the Warhammer Underworlds things with the ghouls. And this is actually going to be the standard bearer for my zombie unit, I've decided. Someone said that in the comments. I forgot who it was because that was already like 3 weeks ago again. Sorry. You know who you are, and thank you very much, because it's a fantastic suggestion. I love it. I really think that's going to look really cool as a standard for the zombies, because I mean, a zombie standard bearer is always always a bit weird. So that, I think, actually works really well for that. And there's, of course, also the vampire, who is now fully assembled, and he has to be under the 25mm base because he's just way too tall. Right, so I also, a couple of weeks back, let me get them. I also already started assembling miniatures for the next set, because I was thinking that I was going to be able to finish these in February, and then I wanted to get on the next set right away. So I wanted to have them already built. So I built them, which is a bit shitty now, because I'm not going to be able to touch these until April. So they're just going to sit around. But, yeah, one of them is a bit front-heavy. The standard bearer, of course. What we have is a 20-man regiment of Graveguard, and then the White King on horse that comes with, that's also from the new range. The Graveguard are, of course, from the older range, the I think 7th edition stuff for the vampire counts, and then also 5 dire wolves, which are also the brand new dire wolves. So that's going to be the next set of 500 points. Obviously, it's a bit less, or actually, it's exactly the same amount of models, but it feels less because the Graveguard are really expensive, because, I mean, this group has Black Knights and a Vampire, and this is only Dire Wolves and a White King, but the Graveguard, really pricey. I mean, they're the only good infantry that you have as Vampire counts, so yeah, I wanted a good-sized unit of them. And, by the way, these Graveguard models are such a pain in the butt to build. These molds for these figures are so tired. There was so much flash and so many mold lines that I had to get rid of. Just awful. I was so happy when I was done with these 20 because I could not have stomached. I couldn't have stomached any more of them. So, not my favorite for sure. But I'm glad they're built, and I'm sure they'll be fine to paint. But yeah, they're not great models. And the molds are very, very tired. So, there's one thing I did want to show you, and that is this. So here we have the zombie, and I praised them in the original video for how small they are, right? Because look at how well they fit on a 20 mil base, and they rank up perfectly, and they're not completely overdone like a lot of Games Workshop miniatures. But then from the same range, we have this lad. One of the dire wolves, and I mean he's a bit of a standout because he kind of stands on a rock and he does the whole howly thing. But I mean just look at the size comparison, right? And my problem with this isn't necessarily because I mean it's fantasy, right? You want the wolves to be kind of big, I suppose, but I mean it's a horse for this lady, right? So and the basically the thing that bothers me about this is they are from the same range. The new sort of Age of Sigmar vampires, and they have about the same stats. So this is about as good as a zombie, I think with maybe another wound or another attack, but it's really not that much more. Like, in terms of fighting capability, they're not too dissimilar. So, except this is, of course, much faster, because it's a horsey. But, yeah, I don't know. I think that's really strange to do that way, but, that's a Games Workshop thing, I suppose. Right, let me just get this over here. Okay, just wanted to get that out of the way. So, because one thing I wanted to just quickly touch is my inspiration for this whole project. And in lieu of that, why this isn't Oldhammer. And yeah, it's not. At least not to me. I mean, I personally would... officially, Oldhammer is just 1st to 3rd edition Warhammer Fantasy Battles. 4th and 5th are Middle Hammer or Hero Hammer. And then 6th edition onwards is considered contemporary. But, I mean, even 6th edition is 20 years old at this point. Is that really contemporary or over 20 years old? I think that came out in 99 or in 2001. Was it 2001? It might have been 2001. But still, that's 20 years ago, right? That's pre 9/11. That I don't think that's contemporary at all. So I don't have a big problem calling 6th edition Oldhammer. I mean, the game doesn't even exist anymore, right? 7th and 8th are the most recent ones, and they don't exist. So I think this whole discussion is silly, and it's kind of like some people consider the 90s stuff to be Oldhammer. I kind of fall in that category, I guess. For me, 6th edition is the Warhammer because that's the last edition I played. But I don't know. I don't really care that much, and I didn't name the challenge. I guess if I had, I may have called it something else, but it doesn't matter in the end. It's just we're making old Warhammer armies, right, for like 6th edition. There you go. And there will definitely be real Oldhammer on this channel soon as well, because I do have a whole bunch of dwarves that I want to get into, and they are definitely early 90s and 80s. But anyway, so Local was selling off a whole bunch of his collection, and mostly Games Workshop stuff. And among that, he posted a picture of the stuff he had for the new vampire counts. And it was this box right here. So we have the start collecting box, and as you can see, it containeth 20 Graveguard, 5 Black Knights, and the White King on horse. He had a box of the zombies. I already threw the box out, so I'm just showing you the leaflet. But 20 zombies, right? And then he also had a box of 3 Fellbats and a box of 10 Direwolves. And I looked at that picture. It had all of those things in one picture. And I looked at that and thought, that's a Warhammer Fantasy army. I mean, 20 Graveguard, 5 Black Knights, 20 zombies, 10 Direwolves, and 3 Fellbats. That is a Warhammer Fantasy Battles army. That is a 6th edition Warhammer Fantasy Battles army. I mean, there's maybe, you could maybe throw in 20 skeletons, and, you know, that's kind of a pretty standard list that people played. Or like a sort of a starter list that Vampire Count players would play. Maybe missing a vampire, but like apart from that, it inspired me, and that's where I got the idea to do this. And yes, most of the models are not going to be. I don't think there's a single model in my collection for this now that even existed during 6th edition. It's kind of a weird thing that I really want to do here. But yeah, I don't know. It's just what inspired me, because I always liked Vampire Counts thematically, but I really don't like the 6th edition era miniatures. I think the 6th edition era miniatures are kind of ugly. All of them, really. I don't like the old plastic zombies. I don't like that era of plastic skeletons, the ones with the weird arms and the giant hands. I think they look really dumb, and the really big spears with the massive spear points. I think those skeletons are hideous. And the metal Graveguard, they're just as boring as the plastic ones, I suppose. But yeah, and the plastic Black Knights aren't really that good either. I mean, they were old, I think. I don't think that there were new ones during 6th edition. I'm pretty sure the Black Knights were still like the old 4th and 5th edition ones. But yeah, and then the Fellbats weren't pretty, and the Spirit Hosts were really ugly, and most of the Vampire miniatures were kind of ugly as well. I just was not inspired when I was, like, how old was I? 15, 16 when that came out, or 17 maybe, and I just looked at those miniatures and was like, ugh, I don't want to spend my, little money that I have on this. And so I played Empire and Skaven instead, which I guess the Skaven models were also horrible. But yeah, that's my main problem, I think, with 6th edition. I love the actual game. I think the actual game of 6th edition is probably when Warhammer Fantasy was perfect. I mean, or as close to perfect as it could be. That edition it played really well. It was super adaptable. There were so many things you could do with it. It worked as a skirmish game. It worked in sieges. There was just nothing in it really that didn't work. It was just a good game, and it was even relatively balanced. I mean, there were a few things maybe in the game that were super strong, but it didn't have those balance issues from 4th and 5th edition, which were very, very, very heavy on the crazy, pimped out heroes. And it also doesn't have the problem of the later editions with the masses of useless infantry that are just there so Games Workshop can fill their pockets. So, to me, perfect edition, but I always hated most of the miniatures. Like, miniature-wise, I love the 90s. 4th, 5th edition, even some of the 3rd edition stuff is really charming, but that 80s stuff, I do like the Kev Adams models, but a lot of the other stuff that's in those ranges, it's just kind of tiny and weird. So, yeah. But the 4th and 5th edition stuff from the 90s is beautiful. That Warhammer era is perfect. After that, it's kind of mixed bag. I do think some of this new stuff that they're doing with Age of Sigmar, like, I don't specifically like the exclusive Age of Sigmar stuff that much, but all of the Age of Sigmar stuff that is reminiscent of Warhammer Fantasy Battles, I think they have actually nailed. So these new vampire counts, for example, I think they look wonderful. I don't think there's a single miniature in this whole line of actual new models that isn't good. I would have used the new skeletons as well, but they don't fit on 20 mil. There's no way you're going to be able to rank them up. So it's going to have to be older plastic skeletons. But yeah, all the dire wolves and fell bats and all that stuff, it's gorgeous. It's really, really nice. I might even have to see if I can somehow get some of those vampire knights, but they're pricey, and again, I don't want to buy it from a shop, so I'm gonna have to wait till somebody has them just randomly if I really want to get them. But I don't know. On the other hand, I've already spent quite a bit of money on this, even just getting it secondhand, and yeah. So yeah. I'm guessing that's all I really want to say. So hopefully now, quickly during March, I have a few things I need to finish this week for sure. But after that, I really want to get into these vampire accounts for my first grouping and get them out. And then yeah, I'll see you with that stuff, and hopefully I'll be done before the end of March. And hey, if it goes well on these vampire accounts, then I'm definitely also going to do something else in March, and that will also have videos. And yeah, so hopefully more content from me on this channel. I really want to get back into it. It's just I have so much to do. It's and there's really not that much progress on my own hobby stuff. So yeah, but hopefully I can change that with this. All right, 16 minutes in. That's long enough. I hope you enjoyed the video, and please leave the comments. I do want to, get better at responding to all of them, but time is a thing at the moment, sadly. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.